We're always told to eat our veggies, get more exercise, but what if the biggest risks to our health aren't on our plates or in our workout routines? What if they're in the very air we breathe and the water we drink? There's this invisible connection between our environment and our well-being, and today, we're going to make it visible. So I'll ask you straight up, is your environment secretly impacting your health? The answer, for pretty much all of us, is a resounding yes. And it's happening in ways you probably don't even think about. From the water coming out of your kitchen tap to the air on your street. There are these constant, unseen forces at play. Okay, so to really get a handle on this, we need to be clear on what we're talking about. When we say environment, it's not just about trees and rivers. It's this whole complex mix of physical, chemical, and biological factors that are all around us. Think of it as the total sum of our surroundings. And it is the absolute foundation of public health. So how does this huge concept of the environment actually hit us day to day? Well, let's break it down, and we'll start with the most essential thing for life, water. We're going to follow its incredible journey all the way from its source right to your tap. So our water, it really starts its journey in one of three places. You've got rain, which is nature's purest form. Then there's surface water, rivers and lakes, which is everywhere, but it's also dangerously easy to pollute. And finally, you have groundwater, which is naturally filtered by the earth itself, but can be way harder to get to. Where our water comes from is the first crucial step in making sure it's safe to drink. So what does safe water even mean? Well, it's a lot more than just being clear. Of course, it's got to be free from nasty germs and harmful chemicals. But it also has to be pleasant, no weird colors or smells, and it has to be usable for everything from drinking to doing laundry. It's an incredibly high standard, and for a very, very good reason. And to meet that high standard, we've developed some truly incredible systems. Large-scale water purification is really a modern marvel of public health. It's capable of removing almost all bacteria from water that would otherwise be completely toxic. It's basically an invisible shield that protects entire cities. Now, this is where the engineering gets really fascinating. Just look at the trade-offs here. On one hand, you have rapid sand filters. They're super fast and they don't take up much space, which is perfect for a dense city, but they need highly skilled people to run them. On the other hand, you have slow sand filters. They're the exact opposite. They take up a ton of space and are incredibly slow, but they're cheaper, simpler to run, and believe it or not, they can be even better at removing bacteria. It just goes to show there's no single perfect solution. It's all about finding the right one for the situation. All right. Just like we've built systems to clean our water from unseen threats, we also have to deal with another invisible part of our environment, and it's something we all take in about 20,000 times a day, the very air we breathe. The most important phrase in this whole definition is generated by human activities. Sure, nature creates some pollutants, like from volcanoes, but the kind that truly impacts public health on a massive scale, that's the stuff we put into the atmosphere ourselves. And where does it all come from? Well, it's the cars we drive, the factories that make our stuff, the fuel we burn at home just to stay warm or cook a meal, even the simple act of burning trash. It's become this unavoidable byproduct of modern life, and it's all around us. So what exactly are we breathing in? Well, you've got things like sulfur dioxide, the chemical that creates acid rain. You have lead, which is absolutely devastating for a child's developing brain. Then there's particulate matter. These are tiny, invisible particles so small they can get lodged deep inside our lungs. And ground-level ozone, a key ingredient in smog that directly attacks our ability to breathe. The impact can hit you right away, like a sudden cough, a scratchy throat, or an asthma attack. But it's the delayed effects that are even more frightening. Years of exposure can lead to chronic diseases like bronchitis, emphysema, and even lung cancer. It's a slow, quiet, cumulative threat. Okay, so from the invisible stuff in our air, we're now going to turn to the very visible things we throw away. How we manage our waste, both our trash and our human waste, creates a direct line between sickness and health. This is what we call the chain of infection. And this diagram, it illustrates the problem perfectly. Just look at these pathways. Germs from an infected person can travel through fluids, they can contaminate fields, they get carried by flies, they end up on our fingers, and finally into our food. It's a disturbingly simple and effective cycle. But look closer at those vertical lines on the diagram. Each one of those is a barrier. It's a public health intervention specifically designed to break that chain. A toilet is a barrier. A safe water supply is a barrier. Simply washing your hands is a barrier. Sanitation, quite literally, is the art of building defenses to stop disease in its tracks. So, what about our trash, our solid waste? We've got several ways to manage what we leave behind. There's controlled tipping, which is just the modern engineered landfill. There's incineration, which burns waste down to ash and drastically cuts down its volume. And then there's composting, which turns organic waste back into valuable soil. Each one is a different tool in what is a massive, ongoing battle. All right, let's zoom in now. We're going to go from these huge, large-scale systems down to the smallest but often deadliest threats in our environment, the insects and other tiny creatures that carry and transmit disease. The scientific name for these little carriers is a vector. And a vector isn't just any bug. Think of it as a living vehicle for infection. It passes on germs either through a direct bite or by contaminating the things we touch and the food we eat. And just look at this list of infamous vectors and the diseases they carry. You've got the mosquito spreading malaria and dengue fever, the common housefly spreading typhoid and cholera, the rat flea carrying the bubonic plague. These tiny creatures have literally shaped the course of human history. And this is where public health feels like detective work. It's incredible. You can actually identify the larvae of the dangerous malaria-carrying Anopheles mosquito just by how it rests in the water. See how it floats parallel, flat against the surface? Other mosquitoes, like the culex, hang down at an angle. This tiny visual cue is absolutely vital for knowing what kind of threat you're facing and exactly how to fight it. So, wow. We've seen the threats in our water, in our air, in our waste, and even from the smallest creatures around us. So the big question is, how do we put all this knowledge together to actually build a healthier future? This quote right here, it really sums up the entire strategy. It tells us that we don't have to be perfect in one single area. The disease cycle is a chain, right? And a chain can be broken at any of its links, whether that's building a proper toilet, purifying water, or just remembering to wash your hands. Every single action matters. Because ultimately, our health is a direct reflection of the environment that we create and maintain. The connections are crystal clear, from our biggest citywide systems down to our smallest daily habits. Which leaves us with one final question for you. What is one change, big or small, that you can make to help protect both?